everyone, and welcome into Holy Chaos on Tap this week, broadcasting live from my studio office in the basement of my house. I'm just kidding, we're not live. Broadcasting pre-recorded and then put onto the internet so that you can listen at your leisure, and live in the sense that I try to do this as best I can in one take because I just don't want to do a lot of edits. So hopefully I can get through this and you have a good time listening, and I'm excited that you are listening. So how did you find us? Let me know. Make a comment. How did you find the show? And where are you listening from? Are you in your car, driving to and from work? Are you winding down at the end of the night, having a cocktail in hand after a long, stressful day of kids and work? Or maybe it's in the morning and you just dropped the kids off and you're just having a cup of coffee, relaxing. Whatever it is, I'm glad you found the show, and hopefully you come back and like and subscribe and continue to listen to additional episodes that we put out. But this episode, I'm really excited about, and if you're watching online on YouTube, you might be able to see behind me. If not, it's pretty tough to see with that blue, but I'll put it on the screen. It is an episode called Bluey, Greener Grass, and Saintly Perseverance. So you can deduce by the name that we're going to be talking about Bluey. Also, because I have my shirt on, that's by far probably one of my favorite shirts. It was the 80s, man. I really don't know how we started on Bluey. I do know that my oldest was absolutely hooked from the moment that we came across it on Disney Plus, which I think was probably about 3 years ago, which was probably around the same time that it just blew up everywhere. And honestly, thank God for Bluey, because me and my wife love it. We watch it with the kids. It's very real. And many times when I look over at my wife at the end of an episode, she's sitting on one side of the couch, I'm sitting on the other side of the couch. We got kids in between us or kids on top of us. And she's over there just crying at the end of an episode. I'm like, "Are you crying?" "No, I'm not crying." But no, I tear up too at some of the episodes. And one of the episodes that we'll talk about a little bit later is one that always gets me at the end of the show. I just got a tear in my eye. So I think because of it being such a fun, clever, tender, and sometimes real show, that's what makes it so special. For me, buried underneath all the giggles and the chaos is something really profoundly spiritual. Lessons on patience and love and family and envy and so many other things. So, with that, I'm going to pre-warn you that I might break into a really bad Australian accent from time to time as I mention certain phrases or scenes. So, if you want to continue and maybe listen to some bad Australian accent, let's dive into Bluey, Greener Grass, and Saintly Perseverance. All right, fellas, so I got my beer poured. I'm going with the Oktoberfest lager. It's the end of October, and very, very particular about when I drink my beers that are seasonal. So I know sometimes Oktoberfest can come out as early as July and August. That's way too early for me. It's too hot. Has to be the end of September and through October for me to drink Oktoberfest. Just like winter lager. Winter lager I cannot drink right now. I mean, I know some winter lagers are already being pushed out, but it's way too early. It's got to be wintertime for me to drink. So going with the Oktoberfest because end of October, so just want to make sure I get to savor the great tastes of Oktoberfest beer. So, all right, so let's dive in. Bluey. And honestly, it's a show that is about everyday life. I'm a reminder, though, that holiness happens right in the middle of all of our family chaos. And I'm sure your family life is probably just like my family life if you have kids, and especially young kids. Food crumbs everywhere, spilled milk, toys all over the place, just waiting to bust your ankle. My oldest son, when he comes home, sometimes he'll take his clothes off and just change clothes and just leave clothes in the middle of the floor. I'm like, dude, come on. Hamper's right over there. Put your clothes in the hamper. But at the end of the day, it's all about being together. And every episode for me, it's the same thing. Family life just, it isn't perfect. It's definitely not perfect. It's just a mess. But it's holiness. That's what it is. Holiness is all around us. And every time, I always look at my wife when something's going on. I'm like, we're blessed. It's a blessing. This is a blessing. So I know it's hard sometimes in the moment, but it really, that's what it is. So I had a hard time picking some episodes to talk about for this specific show that I'm doing right now, but I landed on two episodes. So the first episode I'm going to talk about is again, Australian accents coming out, Hamabon. We're going to talk about Hamabon. It's one of my favorites, and it hits home for me because it is especially both literally and figuratively about the proverb, the grass is always greener. Everyone is dealing with it. It starts out with, simple house maintenance, gutters gutters falling down. Chili says, "This house is falling apart," and Bluey then enters right on cue with a complaint that her watermelon isn't as red as Bingo's watermelon, which again, I think you can relate with your own kids, where siblings are sometimes not happy that another sibling has something. And then, Bandit trying to squash the argument. Well, the grass is always greener. And then right on cue is a neighbor, Pat, reveals his new pizza oven. Hey, check out my new pizza oven. And literally, immediately, right after that, Bandit says, "We're going to Hamabon." And Chili, his lawn sure is looking pretty green. And I love it. I love it because it is so right in your face of, I think, how everyday life in real life works. And the phrase, "the grass is always greener," while it's not biblical, it's an old proverb. It certainly has a biblical theme, such as envy and "thou shalt not covet." And as a dad, I think this is hard. And even Bandit succumbs to the temptation, the great Bandit, of envy and trying to be as good as the other dad on the other side of the fence. And I know I want to provide and be the best I can for my wife and kids, but sometimes I think that that involves having nice stuff and nice things, and you really don't need to have that. It's more of a want, not a need. And then later in the episode, Chili even looks at Bluey and says, "You can't just get new stuff all the time." It's true. We scroll, we compare, we overwork. If you're on social media, you're bombarded with information about what other people are doing, how they're living their life, what they have, the new things they bought, how, the vacations they go on. It's just constantly in your face. I used to have an old pickup truck, a 2005 Chevy Silverado. I love that thing. I drove it to the East Coast and back again, and up and down the coast, and up to Michigan, down to Tampa. It was a great truck. We were faced with the blessing of having twins, and so, pickup truck is not the ideal family car. And not only was I looking at having to get a new family car, but I was looking at the idea of, now I have to have a car payment. And it's like the first time I've had a car payment in like 15 years. And so, but I told myself, okay, if I have to get a new car, I have to have a family car, I'm getting a cool car, no minivan. So I started to look, and I found an amazing car. It was a black Traverse, and it was amazing. I loved it. Just justified everything on this car because it was for my family. Engine and towing package, needed it for storing the cargo carrier or the hauling a trailer for eventual family vacations or road trips. Black tint, needed that to protect the kids from the harmful UV rays. So you got to have the black tint. Leather seats, got to have leather seats. Easier to clean those kid spills, and so on and so on. But in reality, in my head, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is a dad's ride, something cool to be in line with the other dads, because I never really paid attention to it, but I started to recognize when I was looking for a new car that all these dads, they had really nice cars, and I was driving like an '05 Chevy Silverado pickup truck, which it was okay, but it didn't even have electric locks or electric windows. I had a cassette player for who has a cassette player in their car? So it was definitely dated. So I wanted to compete with the other dads. The grass is always greener. So, but God, it's funny. God has a way of humbling you, though, while giving you exactly what you need. So I'm stressing about the idea of having a new car payment, and a 3-year-old, and twins on the way. And also we're fast tracking our basement to finish our basement because we literally don't have room on our main level. We have a ranch. We literally don't have room for twins for two kids, so we had to expand our footprint in our house and finish our basement. So bills are stacking up. A lot of things going on, and not a month into owning my car, I'm down in the basement with the crew who's working on finishing the basement, and my wife comes in crying. She said, "Nick," and I immediately think, "Oh no, what is wrong?" So I look up the stairs and I look up the steps and I see her, and she's just a mess, crying, and she says, "I backed into your car and hit it." I'm like, "What? You backed into my car?" So so that morning, uh, I usually park in the driveway, and then my wife parks in the garage. So I moved my car out of the driveway and parked it across the street so that the crew coming in had access to the driveway and could set up on the one side and do what they need to do. So my wife backing out of the garage, she just backed out, just right in the side of my car, smashed the door, smashed the driver's side door. So I'm just take a moment and I think, take a breath, and then I just give her a hug and I say, it's okay. So, but now I'm having to replace my door on my new dad ride out of my own pocket because it's basically an internal accident. Everything is on my own insurance. So, it's like another expense that you didn't expect. So now, fast forward a year later, a big spring storm hits, golf ball size hail, just wrecks my car. The passenger side hood, cracked windshield, roof destroyed. Insurance company comes out, decides we're just going to total your car. So my stress of having a car payment with twins is gone. No more car payment. So now I'm not saying God send a hailstorm to eliminate my car payment, but I think it's kind of funny how things like that work out. So I have no car payment anymore, but my car looks absolutely destroyed. But it runs. It still gives me all the great features for why I bought the car. It still looks good on the inside. It still has all the benefits of like the towing package and everything that I wanted, but the outside looks like it was a backstop for a driving range. But whatever, it's funny how you can be humbled like that and be blessed at the same time. So yes, I still have the car. Yes, it still looks smashed up, but it's a great family car. And it's kind of like at the end of the episode of Hammer Barn. Bandit, after getting his pizza oven, makes his pizza, and then he says, it looks a bit dodgy. Yeah, my car is a bit dodgy, but it's a great family car. All right, so we've looked at Hammer Barn, and now we're going to look at the second episode of Bluey that really hits home for me. And honestly, it's really, really hard to pick a favorite. There's so many great episodes of Bluey that really, you can relate to real life. And but as a dad, I'm always looking at how am I teaching my kids, both with my words and actions, but my kids actually teach me so much more than I ever thought possible. And that's what takes me to one of my favorite episodes is cricket. And earlier when I said there are times that I look at my wife and she's over at the other side of the couch crying at the end of an episode, this is one that gets me to tear up at the end. And it's funny because the show is really, there's a few subplots I guess around it, but it's named cricket because they're playing the game cricket. And we don't even have cricket here in the U.S. But as a dad raising kids, specifically two boys, I recognize sports and the idea of perseverance. And before everybody starts jumping on, oh, the U.S. doesn't have cricket, I'm sure we do have cricket. I'm sure there's schools or teams out there that are playing cricket in the U.S. It's just not as big as it is in Australia. So it'd be like if Bluey was based in America, it'd be, obviously baseball or football or something like that. But having kids, it's such an amazing blessing, and it's a true gift from God. And I don't think I growing up, I always wanted to have kids, and I just, I guess I didn't really fully comprehend the impact that a kid or multiple kids could have on me as a person. And one thing that struck me very early on with kids, when they're babies and toddlers and learning how to crawl, figuring out how to walk and talk and eat and get dressed, put coats on, shoes on, pants, it's just they keep trying over and over and over and over again, no matter how many fails, bumps, knocks, food all over their face, the arm going through the neck collar instead of the arm sleeve. It's like they just keep shoes on the wrong feet. They keep trying over and over and over and over again, and that's the perseverance to keep learning and getting better. It just struck me, and I thought, man, imagine if we as human beings kept up that tenacity for improving all through our lives. But somewhere along the way, we settle into that, that's good enough, and are okay not mastering everything we try. Now, if we did, we'd be like a superhuman race that is both mentally and physically extraordinary, and maybe even spiritually. But the vast majority of the population on this planet, I think, settles into that's good enough. Obviously, there's the people that do keep up that tenacity. They're the professional athletes. They're the people that are, the 1% of the population that are just at the peak of their physical fitness and their mental game. But in the episode, Rusty has that tenacity as he practices over and over and over again in the heat, in the dust, while everyone else is getting tired. He's by himself. He just keeps going over and over again to get better at cricket. That's perseverance, and that's holiness. And when I was writing and putting together this episode, it's funny how God will sometimes put things in your life or give you little breadcrumbs to let you know that you're on the right path, or affirmation that this is what you should be doing. And when I was writing this episode, the pastor at our church gave a homily that hit exactly on this point. And it's funny because, again, God's amazing, but most masses I have a hard time even really listening and absorbing what is being said at the homily because of three kids in the pew. And let's be honest, as parents, it's tough sometimes in church. It's just, there's sometimes a lot going on, and you can't really fully listen or absorb what's happening. But that particular Sunday, my twins were at home sick with my wife, and my oldest came to church with me, but he went to children's liturgy, so he wasn't there for the readings or the homily. And it was like God wanted me to actually not only hear, but absorb and listen to what was being said. So my pastor talked about perseverance, and what Saint Jose Maria Escriva said, persevering is for saints. Now that line could hang over this whole episode, because Rusty's perseverance is what helped him get so good at cricket, and the dads, all trying their best to get Rusty out to prove who is the best. Despite failing, they're still persevering and trying over and over again. And it takes me to growing spiritually. Growing spiritually takes perseverance. You have to keep at it over and over and over again. You can't have spiritual growth by just hitting mass at Christmas and Easter. You can't have spiritual growth by just praying when you need or want something. It takes perseverance every day, every weekend. Somewhere along the way, though, we stop and we settle into, that's good enough in our spiritual journey. But imagine if we kept going. How strong would our faith be? Then how strong would our faith be when we need help to get us through not only the good times, but the bad times as well, the lows in life along with the highs. And the same could be said for being a dad too. The perseverance to be a great dad, it takes perseverance. You've got to keep going over and over again every day. You've got to work to be that great dad. And the part that gets me though every time in that episode is, despite the message of perseverance, it's the compassion and humility that gets me to tear up, because no matter how great Rusty is, he still showed both compassion and humility to set aside his desire to be the best. He hit one in the air to get himself out so that his little sister could be part of the game. And that's what cricket is all about. That's what Bandit says. That's what cricket is all about. And that's what being holy is all about. My mom passed away 9 years ago, but she had a great devotion to Saint Teresa. And because of that, I tend to have a special place in my heart too for Saint Teresa. And I can't help but to think, again, when I was writing this, I can't help but think of Saint Teresa, because while watching Bluey, she said, while watching Bluey, it makes me think of what Saint Teresa said. Remember that nothing is small in the eyes of God. Do all that you do with love. And in all the shows and movies, Bluey stands tall, showing all that is done with love. I mean, that family, I mean, it's a bunch of cartoon dogs, but I mean, the message is still there about how much love is in that family, and what the family life can be with love. And all that we do as dads is done with love. And despite any failures we might have as dads, our perseverance to keep being the best dads that we can be for our kids is what makes us saintly. It's what makes us great dads. Despite where we might stumble, we might lose our temper, we might lose our patience, we might lose our faith, we persevere and go again the next day and the next day. It's the perseverance, and that's what makes us the great dads that we are, and that's how we continue to be great dads for our kids. Well, that takes us to the end of our first episode of the season series, Raising Little Saints with TV Screens. Be sure to let me know what your favorite Bluey episode is, whether it's Hammer Barn or Cricket, or another good episode is Sticky Gecko. Love that one because it's basically trying to get the kids out the door. They're on their own time schedule, completely separate from what your time schedule is. Definitely relatable, because a lot of times I feel like it's herding cats to try to get them out the door on time. So yes, definitely let me know what your favorite episode is and how you can relate it to family life. And dads, remember, just be patient, be present, never be afraid to look silly, and keep persevering, because that's what makes us saintly, and that's what makes us great dads. This has been Holy Chaos on Tap. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like the show on Instagram and YouTube, give us a follow, give us a comment, and check out our website, holychaosontap.com. Until next time, cheers.